World War I, one of the deadliest wars in history. It resulted in an estimated 9 million soldiers dead and 23 million wounded. It was a global conflict fought between two different coalitions, the Allies and the Central Powers. Battles took place throughout Europe, the Middle East, Africa, the Pacific, and other parts of Asia. This war was the first of two world wars, and in today's video, we are going to be covering the World War I iceberg. This will be covering things known by many, such as the cause of the war, all the way down to some weird, disturbing, and insane historical facts and stories often overlooked. But anyways, I'm really excited to get into the video, so welcome to the World War I Iceberg Explained. Tier 1. Zimmerman Telegram. The Zimmerman Telegram was a secret message sent during World War I. Germany sent it to Mexico in 1917. In the telegram, Germany asked Mexico to join the war against the United States. They promised Mexico some of the land the US had if they won. But Britain intercepted the message and shared it with the US. When Americans found out, they were angry. This telegram played a big role in the US joining World War I. It made people feel threatened by Germany's actions, so the Zimmerman telegram is seen as a key event leading to America's involvement in the war. Christmas Truce. During World War I, soldiers from opposing sides had a special moment called the Christmas Truce in 1914. It happened on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Soldiers along parts of the Western Front stopped fighting. They sang carols, exchanged gifts, and played football, or otherwise known as soccer, together. It was a peaceful break from the war. They also buried their dead and shared food and stories. This truce showed humanity during a brutal time. Commanders weren't happy though. They feared it would make soldiers less willing to fight, so they discouraged truces in later years. Still, the Christmas Truce remains a symbol of hope and humanity amid the horrible conflict of World War I. And actually, before we get into the next entry, consider subscribing to the channel. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so subscribe if you join. It helps the channel a lot. It's also my goal and the channel's goal to be at 500,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Quite a feat, but I think we can reach it. Anyways, back into the video. Rasputin's death. Grigory Rasputin, a controversial figure in Russian history, died in 1916. He was a mystic and advisor in the Russian royal family. Rasputin's death was dramatic though. Some people wanted him gone and dead because they thought he had too much influence, so they plotted to kill him. They poisoned him, shot him, and even drowned him. It's said that Rasputin survived the poison and the shots. Finally, he died from the drowning. His death sparked many rumors and stories though. Some say he had mystical powers that kept him alive longer. Whatever the truth is, Rasputin's death marked the end of an era in Russian history. Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was an important figure whose assassination triggered World War I. He was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In June 1914, while visiting Sarajevo, Franz Ferdinand and his wife were shot and killed by a young Bosnian Serb named Gavrilo Principu. This event set off a chain reaction of alliances and tensions among European powers. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the assassination and declared war. This led to a domino effect of declarations of war between various different countries, ultimately escalating into what we know as World War I. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand is often seen as the event that lit the fuse for the Great War, otherwise known as World War I. Battle of the Somme. The Battle of the Somme was a major battle during World War I, fought between July and November 1916. It took place in the Somme River Valley in France. British and French forces fought against the German Empire. The battle was one of the largest and bloodiest in history, with over 1 million casualties on all sides. The British Army launched a massive offense, aiming to break through German lines and relieve pressure on the French at Verdun. However, despite some gains, the battle became a stalemate with heavy losses. The Battle of Somme is remembered for its immense human cost and the introduction of new military tactics and technology in this new age of war. Armenian Genocide. The Armenian Genocide was a tragic event that occurred during World War I. It took place in the Ottoman Empire, present-day Turkey, from 1915 to 1923. The Ottoman government, led by the Young Turks, systematically persecuted and killed around 1.5 million Armenians. They were targeted because of their ethnicity and Christian faith. Armenians were deported from their homes, forced to march long distances, and subjected to mass killings, starvation, and other atrocities. The genocide devastated the Armenian population and left a lasting scar on their history. Despite denial from the Turkish government, the Armenian Genocide is widely recognized as one of the darkest chapters in all of human history. Schlieffen Plan. The Schlieffen Plan was a military strategy used by Germany at the beginning of World War I in 1914. It was named after Count Alfred von Schlieffen, the German chief of the general staff who developed it. The plan aimed to avoid a two-front war against France and Russia by quickly defeating France first, then turning attention to Russia. The strategy involved swiftly invading France through Belgium and Luxembourg, bypassing the heavily fortified French-German border. However, the plan didn't succeed as intended. Belgium's resistance slowed the German advance, giving France and its allies time to mobilize their forces. This led to a prolonged and brutal conflict on the Western Front. The Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution was a major political upheaval that took place in Russia during 1917. It led to the overthrow of the monarchy, the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II, and the establishment of the first communist government under Vladimir Lenin's leadership. The revolution occurred in two main phases, the February Revolution and the October Revolution. The February Revolution started with protests and strikes in Petrograd, now St. Petersburg, due to food shortages and dissatisfaction with the Tsar's rule. This led to the abdication and the formation of the provisional government. However, dissatisfaction persisted, leading to the October Revolution, where Lenin's Bolshevik Party seized power, establishing a socialist state. Tier 2. Destroy this mad brute. Destroy this mad brute is a phrase associated with the World War I propaganda poster. It depicts a brutish, ape-like figure wearing a German military uniform, representing Germany. The poster was created to encourage Americans to support the war effort by enlisting in the military or purchasing war bonds. The message conveyed is that Germany is a savage enemy that needs to be defeated. The poster plays on fears and stereotypes to rally support for the war. It's an example of how propaganda was used to shape public opinion and garner support for wartime activities. 3 Secrets of Fatima. The 3 Secrets of Fatima refer to a series of visions and prophecies reportedly experienced by 3 young shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, in 1917. According to the children, the Virgin Mary appeared to them multiple times and shared 3 secrets. The first secret was a vision of hell and a call for prayer and repentance. The second secret was a warning about World War I and the importance of praying for peace. The third secret, kept secret by the Vatican for many years, was later revealed to involve a vision of the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II and symbolic images related to the persecution of Christians. The events at Fatima are significant to many Catholics and have inspired devotion and speculation for decades. Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia is a nickname for T.E. Lawrence, a British archaeologist, military officer, and diplomat who played a key role during World War I. He became famous for his involvement in the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire. Lawrence gained the trust of Arab leaders and helped organize and lead guerrilla attacks against Ottoman forces in the Arabian Peninsula. His efforts contributed to the eventual defeat of the Ottomans in the region and the establishment of Arab independence. Lawrence's experiences were later immortalized in his autobiography, 7 Pillars of Wisdom, and in the epic film, Lawrence of Arabia. He remains a legendary figure in military history. PTSD soldiers. During World War I, soldiers commonly experienced what we now recognize as symptoms of PTSD, though it wasn't fully understood or diagnosed at the time. The extreme and prolonged stress of trench warfare, constant bombardment, and witnessing of gruesome injuries and death, and the overall brutality of the conflict took a heavy toll on the soldiers' mental health and well-being. Shell shock was a term often used during World War I to describe symptoms now associated with PTSD. Soldiers afflicted by shell shock displayed various symptoms such as panic attacks, nightmares, trembling, and uncontrollable shaking. Many soldiers found it difficult to cope with the psychological trauma of war even after returning home. Unfortunately, during World War I, there was limited to no understanding of mental health issues, and soldiers with shell shock were sometimes misunderstood or stigmatized. Treatment options were very limited, and many soldiers suffered silently without proper support or recognition of their condition. It wasn't until much later years that PTSD became more widely recognized and understood, leading to improved treatment and support for affected soldiers. Gallipoli Campaign. The Gallipoli Campaign happened during World War I. Allies wanted to open a new front against the Ottoman Empire. They aimed to secure a sea route to Russia. Allied forces, including soldiers from Australia and New Zealand, attacked the Gallipoli Peninsula, and it didn't go well. The plan had many problems, and the Ottomans fought hard. Many soldiers got hurt or died on both sides. Despite some early successes, the Allies couldn't win. Eventually, they had to leave, and the campaign ended without achieving its goals. It was a tough and bloody battle that didn't go well planned for the Allies. Execution of the Romanov family. The execution of the Romanov family happened during the Russian Revolution in 1918. The Romanovs were the ruling family of Russia, led by Tsar Nicholas II. But during the revolution, a new government took power like we talked about earlier, and they wanted to get rid of the old monarchy. So the Romanov family was arrested and kept in captivity. In July 1918, they were taken to a basement and shot by Bolshevik revolutionaries. This event marked the end of the Romanov dynasty. The execution shocked the world and had significant consequences for Russian history, leading to further instability and conflict during the Russian Civil War and World War I. Tier 3. The soldier who let Mustache Man go. I can't say H-I-R for whatever reason on YouTube, so I'm pretty sure most of you guys know who I'm talking about with Mustache Man. During World War I, there's a story about a British soldier named Henry Tandy. In 1918, Tandy reportedly encountered a wounded German soldier in France. The soldier was Adolf Hitler. Tandy had Hitler in his sights but chose not to shoot him. There are different versions of the story, but some say Tandy couldn't bring himself to shoot a wounded man. Others say he didn't even recognize Hitler. If true, this encounter is often seen as a moment of historical irony. Tandy spared Hitler's life, and years later, Hitler became one of history's most infamous figures. However, the exact details and authenticity of this story are often debated by historians. Bela Kiss. Bela Kiss was a Hungarian serial killer who gained infamy during the early 20th century, operating around World War I. He lured women with matrimonial ads, then murdered them for their money. Kiss was known for his macabre method of preserving the bodies in large metal drums filled with alcohol. In 1916, suspicion arose, and authorities investigated his home, discovering the gruesome scene. However, Kiss had vanished, and his whereabouts remain a mystery. Despite numerous sightings and investigations, he was never captured. The case of Bela Kiss remains one of Hungary's most notorious unsolved mysteries, with his fate and true number of victims still unknown. Lost Treasure of the Tsars. The lost treasure of the Tsars refers to the wealth and valuables of the Russian imperial family, the Romanovs, which we talked about earlier, which were amassed over centuries of rule. When the Romanov dynasty fell during the Russian Revolution of 1917, their vast riches became the subject of much speculation and intrigue. The treasure included priceless jewels, gold, art, collections, and other valuable possessions. After the execution of Tsar Nicholas II and his family in 1918, rumors spread about the fate of their treasure and treasures. Some believe that the Bolsheviks seized and redistributed the wealth, while others speculate that parts of it were hidden or smuggled out of Russia by loyalists or opportunists. Over the years, various individuals and organizations have searched for the lost treasure of the Tsars, but to this day, much of it remains undiscovered. USS Cyclops. The USS Cyclops was a United States Navy ship that mysteriously disappeared during World War I. It was a collier ship, used for transporting coal, and played a vital role in supplying fuel to American and Allied forces during the war. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops set sail from Brazil to Baltimore, but it never reached its destination. The ship and its crew of 309 men vanished without a trace somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. Despite extensive search efforts, no wreckage or remains of the USS Cyclops have ever been found. The disappearance remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history, with various theories proposed, but no definitive answers. Spanish flu spread. The Spanish flu was a deadly virus that spread worldwide between 1918 and 1919. It infected millions of people, causing a severe pandemic. The virus spread quickly through respiratory droplets when infected individuals coughed or sneezed. Since global travel was pretty limited back then, the virus primarily spread through close contact between people, such as small towns or families. Medical knowledge about viruses was limited at the time, which made it challenging to contain the outbreak. The Spanish flu had a significant impact on society, causing widespread illness and death. Efforts to control its spread included quarantine measures, but the virus still claimed millions of lives worldwide while World War I was happening. Anastasia Grave. Anastasia Romanov was a Russian Grand Duchess, the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II, the last sovereign of Imperial Russia, and his wife, Snarna Fedorovna, along with her family. She was executed by Bolshevik revolutionaries during the Russian Revolution. After their deaths, several women claimed to be Anastasia, sparking decades of speculation and myth surrounding her fate. In 1991, a mass grave was discovered containing remains believed to be those of the Romanov family, including Anastasia. DNA testing later confirmed their identities. Anastasia's story has inspired numerous books, films, and plays, capturing the public's imagination with tales of different survival and mystery, and it's weird that so many women claim to be Anastasia. Mata Hari. Mata Hari was a Dutch exotic dancer who gained notoriety during World War I. Born Margaretha Zell in 1876, she adopted the stage name Mata Hari, which means Eye of the Day in Malay. She performed across Europe, captivating audiences with her seductive dances and exotic persona. During the war, she was accused of being a spy for Germany and France. Although evidence supporting these claims was scarce, despite maintaining her innocence, she was arrested by French authorities in 1917 and ultimately executed by a firing squad. Mata Hari's life and alleged espionage activities continue to fascinate historians and storytellers. A Bible shielded a man. During World War I, a soldier named Private Leslie Friston experienced a miraculous event involving a Bible. Friston, serving in the British Army, was stationed in France when he found himself in the midst of a fierce battle. In the chaos of combat, a German bullet struck Friston directly in the chest. Miraculously, the bullet was stopped by the small Bible he kept in his breast pocket. Though the impact knocked him down and left him bruised, the Bible absorbed the force of the bullet, saving his life. Friston credited the Bible's presence with protecting him from what would have been a fatal injury, a powerful testament to the strength of faith in times of war. Tier 4. Who shot the Red Baron? The Red Baron, also known as Manfred von Richthofen, was a highly skilled German fighter pilot during World War I. Credited with 80 air combat victories, he was shot down and killed on April 21, 1918, while flying over Morlancourt Ridge in France. The circumstances surrounding his death have been debated for years. Initially, it was believed that Canadian pilot Arthur Roy Brown was responsible for shooting him down. However, recent research suggests that ground fire from Australian troops may have been the cause of von Richthofen's fatal injuries. The Angel of the Mons refers to a legendary story from World War I, believed by some to be a miraculous event. According to the tale, during the Battle of Mons in 1914, British soldiers reported seeing angelic figures or ghostly apparitions that intervened on their behalf, shielding them from enemy fire and guiding them to safety. These accounts were widely circulated and contributed to a sense of divine protection among the troops. However, historians generally regard the Angel of the Mons as a myth or a legend, stemming from a combination of wartime propaganda, psychological stress, and the human tendency to seek meaning and reassurance in times of crisis. Trench rats. Trench rats were a common problem faced by soldiers during World War I. These rodents thrived in the muddy, unsanitary conditions of the trenches, feeding on the food scraps and waste left behind by soldiers. They posed a significant health hazard, spreading diseases such as typhus, trench fever, and dysentery among the soldiers. Soldiers often had to contend with rats gnawing on their belongings and even biting them while they slept. Efforts were made to control the rat population, including the use of cats, traps, and poison, but they remained a persistent nuisance throughout the entire war. Trench rats became symbolic of the harsh and challenging conditions faced by soldiers on the front lines. Sergeant Stubby. Sergeant Stubby was a famous war dog who served with American Expeditionary Forces during World War I. He was a mixed breed dog who became the mascot of the 102nd Infantry Regiment. Stubby's keen sense of smell and hearing made him invaluable in detecting gas attacks and locating wounded soldiers on the battlefield. He even captured a German spy by alerting his fellow soldiers. Stubby participated in 17 battles and received multiple awards for his bravery, including a Purple Heart and the rank of a sergeant. After the war, he became a beloved hero and lived out his days as a mascot for various veterans organizations. Mercy Dog. During World War I, mercy dogs were trained and utilized to provide aid and comfort to wounded soldiers on the battlefield. These soldiers were often equipped with medical supplies such as bandages and water bottles, and they were trained to locate and assist injured soldiers. Mercy dogs played a vital role in providing support and companionship to soldiers in distress, offering a sense of comfort and hope amidst the chaos of war. Their loyalty and bravery earned them a special place in the hearts of soldiers and civilians alike, highlighting the bond between humans and animals in times of crisis. And just look how cute these dogs are. The Florentine Diamond. The Florentine Diamond is a famous yellow diamond with a rich history. Believed to have originated from India, it was brought to Europe by traders and eventually acquired by the Medici family in Florence, Italy, during the Renaissance period. The diamond gained prominence as one of the largest and finest yellow diamonds in the world. Over the centuries, the Florentine diamond passed throughout various hands and royal collections. It was eventually acquired by the Austrian House of Habsburg and later transferred to the Austrian crown jewels. However, during World War I, it disappeared, and its whereabouts remain unknown to this day, adding to its mystique and allure. Despite its absence, the Florentine Diamond continues to capture the imagination of historians and gem enthusiasts alike, and that they're still looking for it to this day, and it's still totally unknown where it is. POS Jandal mud drownings. The POS Jandal mud drownings were a tragic consequence of the Battle of POS Jandal during World War I. The battle took place near the Belgian town of POS Jandal from July to November 1917. And was characterized by heavy rain, which turned the battlefield into a quagmire of mud and waterlogged shell craters. Soldiers, weighed down by their gear and equipment, could become trapped in the thick mud, leading to a horrific death of drowning or suffocation in the mud. The mud was so deep and so sticky that it made movement extremely difficult, and many soldiers perished in these dreadful conditions. Tier 5. The Lost Battalion. The Lost Battalion refers to a unit of the United States Army during World War I. specifically the 77th Infantry Division. In October 1918, during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, this battalion found itself cut off and surrounded by German forces in the Argonne forest of France. Despite being outnumbered and facing heavy enemy fire, the battalion held their position for several days until relief finally arrived. Their ordeal, characterized by intense fighting and harrowing conditions, garnered significant attention and earned their nickname, the Lost Battalion. Their bravery and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds became legendary, symbolizing the courage and sacrifice of American soldiers and the hardships during the First World War. Chair Ami. Chair Ami was a famous homing pigeon who served with the U.S. Army Signal Corps during World War I. He played a vital role in delivering messages between frontline troops and headquarters, often flying through dangerous conditions and enemy fire. One of Chair Ami's most notable missions occurred in October 1918 during the Battle of the Meuse-Argonne, and American forces, including the Lost Battalion, which we just talked about, were trapped behind enemy lines and under heavy fire. After previous carrier pigeons had failed to deliver messages requesting assistance, Chair Ami was dispatched with a crucial message strapped to his leg. Despite being shot in the chest and losing a leg, Chair Ami managed to deliver the message, ultimately saving the lives of nearly 200 soldiers. Chair Ami's bravery and sacrifice made him a celebrated hero, even though he was just a pigeon. Nurse Margarite Maul served as a dedicated nurse during World War I, providing care and comfort to wounded soldiers. Like many nurses of her time, she worked tirelessly in field hospitals and medical units, treating soldiers who suffered from injuries, illnesses, and the harsh conditions of war. Nurse Maul's contributions, like those of countless other nurses during the war, were essential in saving lives and alleviating suffering on the battlefield. Her commitment to her duty and compassion for the wounded exemplified the selflessness and bravery displayed by medical personnel during times of conflict. While specific details about Nurse Margarite Maul may not be widely documented, her service reflects the invaluable role that nurses played in World War I. The Crucified Soldier. The story of the Crucified Soldier refers to a controversial and widely debated legend from World War I. According to the legend, during the conflict, Allied soldiers discovered the body of a soldier who had allegedly been crucified by German soldiers on a barn door or tree. The soldier's hands were supposedly nailed to the wood, resembling the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The legend of the Crucified Soldier gained major traction during the war and in the years following, fueled by propaganda and sensationalized accounts. However, historians have extensively researched the claim and found actually no credible evidence to even support it. Most scholars believe that the story was likely a myth or a misinterpretation of battlefield injuries. While the Crucified Soldier remains a haunting and controversial aspect of World War I folklore, it serves as a reminder for the brutal and dehumanizing nature of warfare and the propaganda on public perception. And that is truly haunting if that isn't just a hoax, and that was actually something that happened during World War I. Corporal Jackie. Corporal Jackie was a famous military service dog who served during World War I. He was a bull terrier and became known for his bravery and loyalty to his unit. Corporal Jackie was trained to carry messages between the front lines and headquarters, often under heavy enemy fire. One of his most notable actions occurred during the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Despite being wounded by shrapnel, Corporal Jackie continued his duties, delivering vital messages and helped save many lives. His dedication and courage earned him numerous awards and decorations, including the French Croix de Guerre. Corporal Jackie's service exemplified the vital role that animals played in warfare, providing companionship, support, and even saving lives on the battlefield. He remains a celebrated hero of World War I. Tier 6. Attack of the Dead. Attack of the Dead is about the outbreak of the Spanish flu during World War I. This deadly influenza pandemic infected millions of people worldwide, coinciding with the final years of the war. The virus spread rapidly among soldiers living in close quarters, as well as among civilian populations, leading to widespread illness and death. The Spanish flu was so severe that it contributed to the destabilization of military forces and disrupted wartime efforts. In some areas, the number of flu-related deaths surpassed those caused by combat. The scale of the pandemic and its impact on both military and civilian populations gave rise to the descriptions such as Attack of the Dead, reflecting the devastating toll of the disease. Man who killed John Parr. John Parr holds the unfortunate distinction of being the first British soldier killed in action during World War I. He was a rifleman in the Middlesex Regiment and lost his life on August 21, 1914, during the reconnaissance mission near the Belgian town of Mons. Parr's unit encountered German cavalry patrols, and he was fatally shot in the ensuing skirmish. The identity of the Pacific German soldier who fired the fatal shot that killed John Parr is not known. The chaos and confusion of the battle, combined with the passage of time, have made it impossible to determine the individual responsible. Parr's death marked the beginning of a conflict that would claim millions of lives over the next 4 years. Kinmel Park Mutiny. The Kinmel Park Mutiny refers to a series of protests and disturbances that occurred among Canadian troops stationed at Kinmel Camp in North Wales in March 1919, shortly after the end of World War I. The soldiers, who had been waiting to go back to Canada, were frustrated by the slow pace of demobilization and poor living conditions at the camp. The mutiny erupted when tensions boiled over, resulting in clashes between soldiers and camp authorities. The protests were fueled by grievances such as delays in pay, inadequate food, and overcrowded living quarters. Tragically, the mutiny led to violence and several deaths, as military authorities struggled to regain control of the situation. The Kinmel Park Mutiny underscored the challenges of demobilizing large numbers of troops after the war and highlighted the frustrations and hardships experienced by soldiers awaiting to go back to their country. Crew of Zabrina. The crew of the Zabrina were a group of soldiers who found themselves caught in a dramatic and harrowing ordeal during World War I. The Zabrina was a British steam trawler that operated in the North Sea. On August 19, 1917, while fishing off the coast of Scotland, the Zabrina was attacked and sunk by a German U-boat. The crew of the Zabrina faced immense danger as their ship went down, but they managed to escape in lifeboats. However, their ordeal was far from over. They spent several days adrift at sea, battling rough water and dwindling supplies. Eventually, they were rescued by another British vessel and brought safely ashore. The crew of the Zabrina demonstrated remarkable resilience and courage in the face of adversity, enduring hardship and danger with determination and fortitude. Their story serves as a testament to the bravery and sacrifices made by soldiers and sailors during times of war. The scuttling of the German fleet. The scuttling of the German fleet refers to a significant event that occurred at the end of World War I. Following the signing of the armistice in November 1918, the German High Seas Fleet, consisting of battleships, cruisers, and other vessels, was interned in the British naval base at Scapa Flow in the Orkney Islands. As negotiations for the Treaty of Versailles unfolded, the German soldiers became increasingly fearful that their ships would be seized by the victorious Allied powers. In response, on June 21, 1919, German Admiral Ludwig von Reuter ordered the scuttling of the entire fleet. In a coordinated effort, the German sailors opened the seacocks and valves of their ship, causing them to take on water and sink. In total, 52 out of the 72 interned vessels were successfully scuttled, while some later salvaged. The scuttling of the German fleet was a dramatic and symbolic act, reflecting the end of the naval power struggle and the conclusion of World War I. UB85 Sea Monster. The story of the UB85 Sea Monster and the supposed encounter with a sea monster is a fascinating tale from World War I. In April 1918, the German submarine UB85, under the command of Captain Lieutenant Gunther Creech, surfaced off the coast of Ireland after being attacked and damaged by British forces. According to reports, Creech claimed that his submarine was attacked and disabled by a mysterious sea creature, which he allegedly said it resembled a sea monster. Allegedly, the creature had large eyes and a long serpent-like body. Kretsch reported that the creature had caused significant damage to the submarine's forward deck gun before disappearing back into the depths of the sea. While the story of the UB-85 encountering a sea monster has captured the imagination of many over the years, skeptics have pointed out that wartime stress, combined with poor visibility and challenging conditions, may have led to misidentification of natural phenomena or other ships. The exact nature of what UB-85 encountered remains uncertain, adding a layer of mystery to the story. Bertha Trust. There's a limited amount of information available about Bertha Trust, but she appears to have been a German pacifist and activist during World War I. Trust was known for her opposition to the war and her efforts to promote peace and social justice. During a time of intense nationalism and militarism, individuals like Bertha Trust were often marginalized or persecuted for their beliefs. Despite facing challenges and opposition, Trust remained committed to her principles and worked tirelessly to advocate for peace and reconciliation. While specific details about Bertha Trust's life and activism may be scarce, her efforts to promote peace during a tumultuous period in history serve as a reminder for the importance of standing up for one's belief, even in the face of such adversity. Tier 7. German Corpse Factory. The German Corpse Factory is a historical myth that emerged during World War I. It claimed that the Germans were using human corpses to manufacture various products, such as soap, candles, and fertilizer, all made from humans. This propaganda story was spread by Allied forces to demonize the Germans and rally public support for the war effort. However, there is no such credible evidence to support the existence of such a factory making human soaps. The myth likely originated from rumors and misinformation circulated during war, fueled by anti-German sentiment. After the war, investigations found no substantiated evidence of any corpse factories operated by the Germans. The German corpse factory myth serves as a cautionary reminder of the power of propaganda and how much everyone hated the Germans during World War I. Boomerang Grenades. During World War I, Australian soldiers developed a unique weapon, and these are kind of awesome, even though they're used to kill people, they're a cool idea. The Boomerang Grenade. Inspired by their indigenous culture, they crafted grenades shaped like boomerangs. These grenades had a curved design intended to increase throwing accuracy and range. They were especially useful in trench warfare, where precise targeting was crucial. The boomerang grenades were effective in disrupting enemy positions and causing casualties. However, they were not widely adopted by other nations due to their specialized design. Nevertheless, they remain a weird and fascinating example of the innovative approaches taken by soldiers during Great War or World War I. British opium cigarettes. During World War I, British soldiers sometimes used opium cigarettes. Opium, derived from the poppy plant, was smoked for its pain-relieving and sedative effects. Soldiers often faced extreme stress and pain on the battlefield, and opium provided a way to cope. However, its use was not officially sanctioned by the military, and it was often obtained illicitly. The British Army had strict regulations against drug use, but some soldiers still resorted to opium to numb their senses and escape the horrors of war. Despite the risks of addiction and disciplinary action, opium cigarettes were just one example of the various coping mechanisms and drugs they used during the conflict. Tier 8. Stab in the back myth. The stab in the back myth emerged in Germany after World War I. It claimed that German military did not truly lose the war on the battlefield, but was betrayed by politicians and civilians on the home front. According to this myth, politicians signed the armistice in November 1918, ending the war prematurely and leading to Germany's defeat. This narrative blamed various groups, including communists, socialists, and Jewish people, for undermining the war effort. The myth served to shift responsibility away from the military leaders and foster resentment towards the Weimar Republic. However, historians widely reject this, instead attributing Germany's defeat to a combination of military failures, economic strain, and exhaustion from years of fighting. The Hound of Mons is a legendary tale that emerged during World War I, particularly among British soldiers. According to the story, a ghostly and monstrous creature, often described as a massive black dog, appeared during the Battle of Mons in 1914. It was said to have protected retreating British soldiers by either leading them to safety or attacking their German pursuers. The legend provided a comfort to soldiers facing the horrors of war, offering a supernatural explanation for moments of unexplained or fortunate or survival. While likely a product of wartime imagination and folklore, the legend of the Hound of the Mons persists as a symbol of hope and courage amidst the adversity. Prince the Dog. During World War I, Prince the Dog became a notable figure among soldiers. Prince was a loyal canine companion who accompanied troops on the front lines. He provided comfort, companionship, and even helped with tasks like delivering messages between soldiers in the trenches. Prince's presence lifted the spirits of the soldiers amidst the harsh conditions of war, offering a brief respite from the constant dangers they faced. His loyalty and bravery became legendary among the troops, and he symbolized the bond between soldiers and their animal companions during times of adversity and war. California's War on Squirrels. During World War I, California launched a unique campaign against ground squirrels. These rodents were seen as a threat to food production because they damaged crops and consumed valuable resources needed for the war effort. To combat this, the state implemented various measures, including bounties for squirrel tails, trapping programs, and even public education campaigns for encouraging citizens to eradicate squirrels from their property. The goal was to protect agriculture output and ensure food security during the war years. While controversial, California's War on Squirrels reflected the broader efforts across the United States to mobilize all resources. The Wild Men of No Man's Land. During World War I, soldiers on both sides often referred to the area between opposing trenches as No Man's Land. It was a desolate and dangerous expanse, littered with barbed wire, craters, and the remains of fallen soldiers. The term Wild Men of No Man's Land was used to describe the brave soldiers who ventured into this perilous territory during the battles. These men faced constant dangers from enemy fire, snipers, and artillery barrages as they fought to gain ground or receive wounded comrades. Their courage and resilience in the face of such extreme conditions exemplified the hardships endured by soldiers during the Great War. And alright, that wraps up the World War I Iceberg Explained. I really enjoyed making this video and scripting it and the edit, and I really enjoyed this video. It's just very interesting, and World War II Iceberg will be out soon, and I think I will combine these two icebergs together to make the World War I and II Iceberg Explained just in one fell swoop for people who want to see World War I and World War II all in one video, but that will be out in a few weeks or months, I don't know. But thank you for watching all the way to the end for this kind of longer video, but I think I'll keep it up with these longer videos for now because I think they're just more fun to make and